We have the Kitti Sisters with me here today. You can learn more what they're up to by going to jumpstartapartments.com. That's going to be a clickable link in the show notes, and you can see it scrolling at the bottom of your screen if you're watching us on YouTube. Again, it's jumpstartapartments.com.
Thanks for having us. Hello, hello.
So we're going to keep the beginning of this really short because I'm sure you've told this story a million times over, but always interested in finding out how you found your way into real estate investing.
Paul, you want to take it or you want? Hey guys, we're apartment syndicator, entrepreneurs, and educator with big dreams and a $300 million in multifamily portfolio. We teach real estate entrepreneurs how to raise more money for their deals and help our passive investor grow their wealth, secure financial security, and creating a lasting legacy. Now, guys, we didn't just always start with like this business, the investor, the consultant company, or the book, or anything like this, right? In fact, a few years ago, we were in fashion business. And then we were deeply involved. Then we quickly learned how quickly we were replaceable. Yeah, our main clients in the fashion business actually just closed down all their retail stores, unbeknownst to us. And that plummeted our income by 95%. Just millions of dollars went to zero overnight. And then at that point, we were just left with no security, no plan, and we had no clue what was our next step. But the great thing is, and the ironic thing is that that crisis actually turned out to be the best thing that happened to us because that was a chance for us to have a fresh start and a different perspective. And that's how we got into multifamily apartments.
Can you give me some examples of lessons learned in that business that you were able to
Yeah,
bring to real estate investing?
that's actually a really good point. In fashion manufacturing, the way we operated, there's a lot of moving parts coming from multiple countries. So organization is really, really important because we may have, for instance, let's say this fabric may be coming from China or Turkey, or this button may be coming from Korea. It may be sewn in a different country. All of that has to be put together, tested to make sure that it meets certain standards, organized in a way that can ship properly across the globe to the United States and distributed across all the stores. So for us, we had a really good sense of organization because one, this is a simple blouse, but there's other components that we produce where it can be up to 10, 15 different components coming all together. And we had to make sure it all matches. The other thing that's really important is that in our fashion business, the one thing that we learned was how to leverage. Instead of having a massive overhead and a massive team on board, we actually leverage our factories and our vendors to do a lot of the minutia work in the business. So we were really lean. So that those were kind of two major skill sets that we brought over to the apartment business.
Sure.
Yeah.
What type of turmoil mentally did you go through in order to make this jump? I mean, that's a pretty significant industry change.
Yeah.
Definitely,
Everyone
right?
wonders about that. I think the thing is we didn't have a choice because we really thought we were on the path to some sort of financial freedom. We had a plan in mind, like, hey, if we continue to do this for a couple more years, we're gonna be set. But we didn't get that opportunity to fulfill that path because that was something that was taken away from us. So, was it a low point? It was a low point because we are the breadwinner for a large family. So we take care of everyone. It's not just us who will be on the streets, but there's other people that are relying on us.
Yes. And the most important thing that we learn is that never have just one source of income. I think that's the biggest pain because we were in the both of us were in the fashion business doing the same thing.
Mm.
So for us, that's why we got into like real estate business because there's multiple type of income, right? There's you make income from like being active, you trade your time for money. And then you have what I call like this our two favorite word is passive income.
Yeah.
So there had to have been a spark that started your interest down this real estate road. What was that spark?
So, and it's funny because growing up, we were encouraged to be entrepreneurs, but it was not an entrepreneurship through real estate. I think most because we live in Los Angeles and my parents saw the 2008 crash and they felt like it was not a reliable business. And also in California, if you talk about passive income, it really doesn't exist because if you buy single family rentals or even multifamily apartments, you're banking on long term appreciation. So in their mind, they always doubted the business. But that was because they weren't fully educated on what happens outside of California. But what we recognized was that the great thing about real estate versus fashion was that it's not outsourceable. People in the United States need these properties. It's not a case where like, hey, this shirt can be made cheaper in a different country, so let's move production there. That was one of the most attractive features. The other one is that we saw that home prices continue to rise in certain markets, and we thought to ourselves like really rudimentary knowledge of real estate. We just thought like Well, all the rich people that we know are in real estate. The richest people in the world all have real estate. There's something there. Let's explore it more.
Yes. And
Mhm.
again, it goes back to like we were looking for a business that create like different type of income. It's not just an active income, and it's create something where, hey, we don't have to continue to trade our time for money. Like, that's what we were looking for.
Mhm.
And then additionally, this is like a big one of the biggest one is the tax benefit, right? We weren't like the people who make like, 40, $50 million annually, but when we're the people who actually get taxed a lot. So we're feeling like, hey, there must be a strategy here. We're missing something. What are the rich people are doing that we're not getting the idea? So
You mentioned that you have a $300 million portfolio, but there had to have been a lot of sweat and tears up until that point. You've seen that diagram, I'm sure, where we see the tip of the iceberg, but all of this work and effort is actually underneath the water. Talk a little bit about that journey because, frankly, it seems like you've done this in a relatively short amount of time. The amount of effort that we're talking about here is almost insurmountable unless you're eating this elephant one bite at a time.
Well, I think the approach is totally different. What our mindset was from the beginning was instead of trying to do everything ourselves, we decided that multifamily is a really team sport. Now, instead of imagine if I wanted to win an NBA championship, do I go to the worst team in the NBA or do I go with the people who are already champions? For instance, like Kevin Durant, he was struggling. Then he went to the Golden State Warriors and he was a tipping point that got them to win multiple championships in a row. So instead of being the whole show, the whole shebang, we were like, how do we join forces with the right team that can elevate us? When we first started, we were brand new to multifamily and we connected with people who were more experienced than us. That first purchase was a 76 unit apartment for 6.9 million. So that was a nice start, but it wasn't our end goal. And even to be frank, 300 million isn't our end goal. It's just part of the process. Since then, we've joined forces with our team, that our current team now, and we've purchased like what 5, 6 properties together. Not just the deal size, but the type of asset and the type of potential. So we went from 6 million, 6 million. Then we purchased like a $16 million property, 30 something, 40, 70, 70
and then
plus.
our latest multifamily deal is 77
Yeah.
million. And you see, like when we enter multifamily apartments, we quickly recognize behind every successful apartment syndication business is this one skill that we're going to talk to you about.
Yeah. So it's basically the ability to raise capital. And that's why small deal or big deal, you're going to do the same effort running it. I think for the most part, the key difference is like, if you can figure out a way to raise more money, you can afford to buy nicer properties that'll be easier to manage. And you'll have a good team that you can afford to hire at a top dollar that can help really fulfill the business plan.
I think that is the true way to go from being hustled to actually achieve sustainable growth and not missing out on deals. Because as we all know, real estate is good, but if you don't have money in it, then you can't take over the ownership.
You have to forgive me. I don't know if you noticed this, but I chuckled when you said the $6.9 million apartment building was a nice start. Most of the people that are listening to the show are probably thinking that that is like their aspirational goal right there,
Yeah.
is to hit that first multi-million, multi-door apartment complex. For you to jump into this is kind of out of sorts. A lot of people will start with the single family homes and eventually, it's like playing real world Monopoly or something. How did you did you feel comfortable doing that? Like it's just this mind. I hate to focus on the mindset part of this so much, but to jump into 6.9 million for your first purchase, that's a huge jump.
Well, again, we were doing it ourselves. So the first thing is what we did in multifamily. We didn't just jump in. We really educated ourselves and studied the business really, really extensively to make sure that we understood the ins and out of the business. Multifamily turns out to be a very simple business, similar to a single family rentals. It just has more people to help support the mortgage. Basically,
And more
how do we?
zero.
Yes, and exactly, and they're just zeros. If you understand, like fundamentally, it's a good business. The thing is, like, if you do single family rentals, you have a one-to-one relationship with the renter. They don't pay the mortgage, you pay the mortgage. The difference is when you do large scale multifamily, you can afford to have a whole bunch of people not pay rent and still be really comfortable with your mortgage payment. In fact, that's part of the assumption that not 100% of the people in any complex will ever pay the bill. right? So there's at least 10% economic vacancy built into most of these assumptions. So we understood the business model really well. Fashion, way harder. Multifamily, very simple business plan. Just make sure you can execute. So we joined forces with people we felt comfortable who can execute the vision. When we first started, we were junior partners. We were just someone on the bench, just sitting in there, just like, cool, this is how we're doing, this is how we're gonna learn. Similar to Bronny James, now joined forces his dad. He's gonna be a bench warmer, but he gets to see firsthand how a top 1 to 2, you know, best player in the world actually operates up close and personal.
Yep. So once we were the junior partner in our first deal, our second deal, we start taking the lead and so on to the
Yeah.
third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth.
Did you have any mentorship up until this point, or is it just finding those right people to partner with?
So originally, we started passively investing in a couple of deals. That's how we actually got started in multifamily. We didn't think we were going to do it actively. From there, the first exposure was like, hey, there's a bubble. We were in a California bubble. And so the first exposure was like, no, there's actually way better opportunities outside of our immediate area. The second thing that the mindset shift that happened was that we understood like, we can't control everything. If we try to control if we think like, I need to own 100% of the deal, I need to do every single part, we wouldn't have been passive investors, but that broke free our mindset. Like, wait a minute, if someone else is better than us at this, why wouldn't we? I would rather trust them to invest my money than have me, who like at that time didn't know anything about real estate or anything aside of the fashion business. Like, it only made sense.
We were so excited on our first like passive investment deal that we didn't wait for the webinar to complete. We're like, okay, this is exactly what we've been waiting and looking for. We are from fashion, right? So, I mean, we dabble into like single family and stuff like that, but we didn't like it. We don't want to be landlords. Like, we don't
Yeah.
want to deal with tenants, toilet, termite, or trash at all.
Yeah. So we basically like, and of course, there's always education along the way. The best education that we got was once we were part of the team, and then every day, real world of what's happening. Because like you can learn from books, from courses, from anything, but the problem with that is like that's not something that's happening real time. So what we love is like, hey, and we get to have like this is happening. So how do we resolve it? COVID happened. How do we resolve this? We're
Mm,
raising money during COVID. Like what to do? All that stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. And even now, with a lot of the people we help, we don't teach people as a coaching program, but we view it more as a consultant where you come to us with, hey, what are you working on right now? What are your problems?
What's working,
What's
what's not
working? What's not
working.
working? Let's solve it. And because we're in the business in real time, I can come back and tell you this is how we treated the business when we started. This is how we treated it during COVID. High interest rates. This is how we've adapted since. So the immediate feedback loop really helps everyone not have to waste any time to figure out on their own how to solve the next problem.
And if that sounds great to you, I would head over to jumpstartapartments.com and learn how the Kitti Sisters can help you with this type of navigating the multifamily investing. I also understand they have a podcast, Cash Flow Multipliers podcast. You can check that out. And if you found some value in what we're talking about so far today, do us a quick favor, share this with one of your investor friends. And if you're watching us on YouTube, a quick like and subscribe goes a long way. So, I'd be curious then. You mentioned running a lean business
Mhm.
and how you're bringing that to your real estate investing. More times than not, when people are getting into real estate investing, they don't realize actually how much effort and work it actually takes. Can you talk a little bit about some of those steps you've made in order to try to be as passive as you possibly can?
Yeah, most of our deals that we are general partners, we spend less about than an hour per week on. And that's not because we're not paying attention, but because we put in the right system to make sure that it's running. We hire third-party property management company for every single property, and we vet them very, very extensively to make sure that they have localized sub-market knowledge in the where the property is located, have other properties in that area, and also are suitable for the asset class. Meaning, if we have an A+ apartment, we're not going to have a C class operator or property management company running it because totally different profile. C class, you're dealing more with evictions, delinquency, security issues.
That's like 1970s.
1970s and older properties are C class. A class properties are 2000s and newer. And so those are more about like activating retention with the tenants. Like how do you, they're treated more like 5-star resorts versus like workforce housing. So we have third party team that manages everything from bookkeeping to screening tenants to collection to maintenance. We pay the payroll, but they run that show. The other part is like all the other vendors and professionals that we work with, they have to be of the highest caliber. This includes Security Exchange Commission, SEC attorneys, real estate attorneys, CPA team. Everyone is working in concert. When we're buying a multifamily deal, for instance, and there's a lot of stuff that's happening
There's
all
a
at the
lot
same
of
time.
moving
Like
components.
you get the PSA signed, all of a sudden the real estate lawyers are starting to draft review the PSA that's coming through from the seller. We're setting up entities. We're forming the business that's going to be able to do the documents to raise the capital. Due diligence is happening. There's so many moving parts, and that's why we needed a team. So every time we do a general partnership team, we always look for people who have boots on the ground who can help us in the local area, but also our team are set where we know like we were on a trip to Asia while we were raising money for on our deals, but because we already have the process in place, it's just a matter of turning the switch on and capital raising just starts happening. So that's like those are the kind of stuff we mean. We leverage technology. We have systems that helps us manage the process. We now have obviously we have employees, but we're all remote and they have specific functions that they are completely trained to. We don't have to run the show. They know what they're doing.
Hmm. So you've mentioned vetting out those property managers locally, but going back to those initial partnerships and partnering with all of your opportunities here and with being syndicators, I mean, that's part of the business. How do you vet, give people advice? How do they vet out the partnerships in a variety of avenues to make sure that they're a good fit for you and them?
That's a really good question. Like multifamily, people in multifamily, a lot of gurus, they kind of encourage people to just form like really shotgun marriages. So it's like, oh, I just met you today and tomorrow let's go buy a couple $1 million property, which is totally not okay. Like, don't do that. In good times, it's easy for partnerships to be all jolly. But in times where there's like struggles here, there's occupancy issues, there's high interest rates, like who you form partnership with will make or break your deals.
So we always teach our students that, hey, like, sometime like you need to start dating, like just like marriage, right? You start need to go on date, like few days, not just one day, and you get into marriage. You start dating and then you start, living together or something like make
It's not
small
not partners having to live together, but basically
like
like
do like
micro steps, micro steps. Learn about each other's personalities, learn about skill sets, make
different.
sure your values are out in alignment. And this shouldn't happen over one day. Be patient. And it's also a gut feeling. If you know people they've worked with, if you've passively invested with them in the past, you sort of know
I
how
think like
they.
that's the key for some people who
Mhm.
can afford to do some micro investment, which is like passive investment. It's great to get to know them, like, hey, when they take your money, what happened, right? Or what happened when they hit the challenge? Are they
Mhm.
honest? How do they communicate? Because when you come in to form a team with them, it's important to know their values, their mindset, how do they communicate with investors.
Yeah. And then as far as a property management company, when we tour a property, we always try to when we tour large property, normally one of the brokers will be on tour with us and one of the property management team will be also walking the units with us. So my job is not to just observe the property, but also to observe the team that's in place. Because a lot of time, if they're doing a good job, we may be able to ask the seller, like, hey, can we also keep the same team on site? Now, this works sometimes for us, sometimes it doesn't. We've thought some people were great, and then we end up having to let them go. But the other part is like how we vet property management team is we talk to our friends in the business. Hey, you have properties here. Have you heard of this person? What's your opinion? Yay, nay. Also, the brokers that are listing the properties, they have a good feel because they've toured even more property than us. They know, like, man, this one was really poorly managed, or this one does a stellar job. So we can always get feedback. Even the lawyers, everyone knows everyone. It's a small business. So never be afraid to get referrals and talk to the people on the ground to get feedback on that.
Mhm. So let's get into the meat of things here. Raising capital. That is a different animal for a lot of people as well. Can you talk about, let's say somebody is they're considering starting their first syndication. What is some of those things when it comes to raising capital they should be aware of?
Well, I think it's important to always raise capital, like always raise money before you actually have a deal. Because in so many cases that we know, and a lot of our fellow general partners have experienced this, is not just because you have a deal, not necessarily all the wealthy people or know will invest, right? So always be racing.
Yeah. So like basically we fell in this trap at the beginning as well. We were like focused on sourcing the deal, and we didn't pay attention to the capital raising part at all. how you handle this is like from the beginning, you need to start building your investor list. A lot of people, they think like, hey, they rely on the fact that they already know wealthy
I
people.
think that's the biggest
So it's
mistake.
like, it's funny to me how many times people say, I know wealthy people and they can't raise any money. Because just
Yes.
because you know wealthy people doesn't mean that person even likes real estate or apartments. Or more importantly, they don't associate you as a person who can run and manage their money. You
Yep.
may be a great
Mhm.
friend, you may be really smart,
You may be a great doctor, right?
but
But they don't
I'm not
like
gonna trust that you know just because you know how to like be a dentist and clean teeth or something. I'm not gonna how do I understand that you can then manage money? It's sort of like a like you think it's a big leap for us to go from fashion to apartments. Like it'll be someone may have a hard time also imagining you going from like the dental, office to all of a sudden doing this. So don't rely on that. Really create a list that's based on people who actually love apartments, are
Yes,
ready to
and
invest in it.
then the ability to raise capital and attract endless investor, I mean, that would totally change your life's trajectory, right? So always be raising, always, like this is the one skill set that you want to always do before you even have a deal,
Mm.
right? And then even if you have a deal, how do you grow or how do you scale? Like it's not based on like your only market intelligence. It's more about having that money to acquire the properties.
Yeah, so and sometimes people are a little surprised when I tell them you have to work at raising capital as much as you are finding the deal.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So if they head over to your website, jumpstartapartments.com, what type of resources are they going to find there?
Yeah, that one is basically we're inviting people to our upcoming event where they can actually learn how to do what we're literally talking about. Just like the one skill that everyone needs is capital raising.
Yep.
And that's our focus because a lot of people we see are eager who have bright eyes, ready to jump into apartments because they believe in the asset class. And the sad thing that we see a lot of time is at least 90% of them quit before they even get their first deal. And the reason for that is they couldn't find that traction because everyone, like you said, was focusing on sourcing the deal where they didn't have the market intelligence, where they didn't have the clout and resume to go buy these large apartments. So they fall flat on their face. But had they learned that, look, it only took them understanding how to raise capital. Now they open up the potential to a whole bunch of other people who are already in the business, who have those connections like we did. We didn't know how to win the deal. We couldn't have won the deal on our own, but we strategically partnered up with people who knew how to win that deal, who understood this local market. All we came in and said was like, look, we can help you with this part. Now we can raise capital, but we can also do something else, right? Because we have a business background. So don't ever go into a deal to say you can raise capital because technically that's illegal. You have to have a broker's license in order to raise capital to get compensated for it. If you learn how to raise money, you will have access to so many different deals. People are always looking for money. And now the role becomes reversed. Instead of you asking them and like, hey, can you take me? Now it's, hey, I'm going to help you close your deal.
So can you talk about your biggest win so far? What are you working on right now?
Well, I think our biggest win is probably our personal life, meaning that now that we're in apartment, it's truly a lifestyle business where we could be working from anywhere in the world. We could be working from home and then we can be with our loved ones, right? Like anywhere, like if anyone of our family needs us at any time of the day, we're accessible. Like it's not like, oh, we have a meeting or someone else is controlling our schedule, our time, or telling us when to wake up or when to go to sleep. So for us, that is the biggest win for us to have that lifestyle business and also to have that control of our time and our freedom.
And like on a professional side, obviously, like we went from our first purchase, 6.9 million is not small, right? But in our context, in what the type of business we do, it's a very small, like there's no way we would buy a building that small anymore.
Yeah, like for instance, like
So
currently we're looking at something at least $50 million.
so like the last purchase in multifamily that we bought last year was 77 million. But the cool thing that we've been able to do in multifamily is like now we've transitioned. Not only are we buying existing buildings, but we're developing large communities. Like right now, we're building 118 townhomes in North Texas. That when we are in the fashion business, we would never,
North
ever,
of Dallas.
we would never have ever thought that was possible. And so the doors that have been opened, the partnership potential that we're able to get locked into now, that's why I told you $300 million. And I just want to tell everyone who's listening, like that's not like us boasting. We're just giving you an insight on what's potentially possible for you guys as well. So 300 million is a starting point for us.
And
And
we've done it in just 5.5 years. So it's not going to take you a lifetime, right?
so now development's a new thing that we're doing. It's just the opportunities and the possibilities now like has opened up so significantly more than what we saw when we were in fashion business.
Oh, and another thing I want to add is that when we actually sold the deals to like and give back our investor money, that's like one of our biggest joy too, because it's like for them to trust us with their
Mm,
hard-earned money and then we are able to return. I mean, we have done 9 deals and we sold three in the last, I mean, 5.5 years that we've been in, and the average hold time is like 27 months or so. So that's one of our biggest joy is actually giving back our passive investor the money that they trust us with.
mm.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what you were talking about at the beginning of this podcast. You were talking and emphasized the fact that you're the breadwinners of your family. You have a lot of people that rely on you. You've kind of taken that forward into your investment life too. You really see these business partners as part of that family.
Absolutely. They're lifelong investors who are friends and family. So it means a lot that they trust us from day one. There are some people who literally sold homes for a loss to come and invest with us at the beginning. Like we didn't know that they did that, but then they told us after they made, three times the money. But they told us, like, did you know I actually sold it for a loss? And my husband was like, what are you doing?
So for her to wire us the
Yeah. So
money.
she sold like a single family home at a loss because she wanted to invest with us so badly. And
Yes.
she knew. So like we don't take investor trusting us lightly at all. We view everyone who invests with us as part of our family. And we feel like we're honored that we're stewards of their money so that they can have that impactful life for themselves and their family. So it's something that because we are so careful of how we treat their money, that's why when we invest in deals, we feel really confident. Like we can't guarantee 100% success, right? There's always black swan events, but if anything is in our power that we can control, we know that we're not gonna leave any stone unturned to make sure that that happens.
Yeah. So we're not chasing deal. We don't have to do any deals. We just want to do the right deal. And most importantly, like we also choose our tribe, right? Our community, our passive investor. Like we really need to feel like, we have the right vibe and the right synergy because for us, we know what we do can help make a big difference in their lives. So we want to pick who we want to have as partners with us in all these deals.
See, this is such an important piece of the mindset that we've been touching on throughout this whole podcast is the fact that you keep talking about you want to find the proper deals, you want to find the proper partnerships, you want to make sure it's a good fit for everyone and everything involved. That is in such a much better mindset place than acting out of some sort of desperation or reaction. More times than not, you're going to have a better experience and find those better deals because of it.
Yeah, I have a really clear example. Prior to buying that $77 million deal, we actually lost out on a deal around 70 million in the same area. But it turned out to be a good thing because the $77 million deal is in a way better location in that market. We're probably the best property. So sometimes saying no to good, you get something greater. Be patient. Understand that don't rush into deals because you feel like, hey, I'm in this business. I need to make this happen. If you can learn how to separate the result from your action, you're going to be in a better place because your action isn't going to come from a place of desperation. And you're going to see things with a more clear mindset because you're like, hey, I just want the best thing. I want to make sure, like, in this moment, if given the choice between good and great, I'm always going to choose great.
It's Palmy and Nancy Kitty, known as the Kitti Sisters. You can learn more by heading over to jumpstartapartments.com. That's going to be a clickable link in the show notes. Before we jump into the rapid fire questions, is there a question or concept you wished we would have covered here so far today?
Mm. No, you know what? You covered everything.
Well, I this has been such a fantastic conversation. You brought so much value to the show. Again, it's jumpstartapartments.com. But if you're ready, we'll jump into a few rapid fire questions to close out this episode.
Yeah.
First, what lie do real estate investors tell themselves and sometimes to others?
I know people, it doesn't necessarily mean they will invest with you. Totally true.
Right. That's a very good example.
Yeah.
And there's a long runway there, right? You got to be telling anyone and everyone that you are doing this.
Mm. Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah,
I
don't be
think
shy of it.
and I think most important is like you don't want to duct tape like all the informations out there. You want to learn from one source. You want to learn from someone who actually have done it so
Mhm.
that you don't take your time and like and piecemeal everything, but it may not or maybe or may not work.
What book do you recommend everybody checking out?
So I recommend people to get 10x is easier than 2x by Ben Hardy. Love Ben Hardy. I think any of his books are amazing. This one is like it speaks to our ethos about how we went bigger. He talks about how like when you stay down here, there's a lot of competition, but when you elevate yourself, you're just actually way less competition at the top. So Ben Hardy's 10x is easier than 2x. I think a
Okay.
seminal book everyone needs to read.
If you could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that be?
Start in passive investing earlier. It
And
would
then
be an
finally, what single strategy, process, or tool have you implemented that has had the biggest time saving impact to you and your business?
Uh, Monday.com. That's our project management software that we use for everything. Our team, our even like coordinating with our students. We just use that system so that everything is just in streamlined in one process. Emails is horrible. And if anyone ever tries to email me and I don't reply, it's because email. So yeah, Monday.com, total time saver. Highly recommend.
Yeah, we use Asana for a similar
Similar.
strategy, and we have all of our contractors and everything on that as well. So we make a list for a property and everybody
Yeah.
works out of there. Well, I really appreciate you joining me here today, and I hope you'll consider coming back. It was great meeting you. Again, it is jumpstartapartments.com.